Okay, guys, let's move on to year end review number 3, onto trigonometry. So when the trigonometry that you did in grade 10 was all about SOHCAHTOA and Pythagorean theorem, because all the triangles that I gave you were right angle triangles. Well, in 20-2, pretty much none of the triangles are right angle triangles. So when we're dealing with non-right angle triangles, you're no longer allowed to use SOHCAHTOA or Pythagorean theorem. So I introduced 2 new rules to you. One was called sine law, the other one was called cosine law. You don't have to have the formulas memorized. We give those to you. You just have to know how to use them and how to punch it into your calculator. So that's what we're going to spend some time doing, is just working through those examples. So for non-right angle triangles, you must ask yourself, do I have a matching pair? Or in other words, do you have a full pair? So you need to ask yourself that question every single time. Obviously, the answer will either be yes or no. If the answer is yes, then what your picture looks like is it means you must know, let's say, this corner and its matching side. Okay, so if that happens, then you're going to use sine law. So sine law, what you do is you put your full pair together. So you do your side length, let's just call it A. So you go A over, and you put it over its matching angle, so sine theta. And then the other half of the formula, we have the same idea. So you have the side length over the sine of its angle. So let's say this is B and this is question mark. So we would have B here and question mark there. Now, you will only know one of those because it's just your half pair. Okay, so you'll know both of these, that's your full, and you'll only know one or the other of those. Okay, so this is what we refer to as your setup, right? We always want to see that every time. And the way you solve all of these questions is you're going to cross multiply and divide every single time. Okay? And we'll go through some examples. Right now, I'm just going to show you the rules here, kind of get your brain thinking of this stuff again. So if the answer to the question is no, I do not have any full pairs, then what your picture might look like is this. So maybe you know this, but not that. Or maybe you know this, but not that. Or maybe you know this, but not that. Okay, so you'll only have half pairs. You won't have any full. Now, cosine law can be written in one of two ways. It depends on if you're looking for a side length or if you're looking for an angle or a corner. If you're looking for a side length, this is what the formula looks like. Kind of looks like Pythagoras. And if you're looking for an angle, all they do is they take the side formula and they rearrange it. So I'm just going to give it to you in its rearranged formula. Just that way you just have to put the numbers in. You don't have to worry about rearranging the other formula. Now, what is most important in this formula is that you always start at the ends. So it is very important that you recognize that that is your half pair. So for example, if you are looking for this thing right here, then its matching angle is what goes there. If you're looking for this corner, then its matching side length goes on the end. So if you're looking for this corner right here, then this number right here, that goes in that last spot. And it's very important that you have the right numbers in the right spots with both formulas, because quite often you'll get an answer, but it will be the wrong answer. And you won't know that it's wrong because you're just plugging numbers into your calculator. So this will become a lot clearer as we go through some examples. But again, we'll just go through that process together. So one thing to remember, that your calculator must be in degree mode. If your calculator is in radian mode, then every single answer will be wrong and you won't have a clue why these answers are not making sense. So make sure you change the mode on your calculator to degree. And then lastly, sometimes the questions are worded a little different. So they won't put an X on their thing, or they won't put a question mark, or they won't say find this angle right here. They'll word the questions a little strangely. So it says, in this triangle, which will be the largest angle? And then the next example, it says, in this triangle, which will be the shortest side? So what you have to know is that the largest angle will always be across from the longest side. just as the smallest angle will always be across from the shortest side. So, since this is our largest side, then this is the largest angle. Similarly here, since this is our smallest angle, then this is going to be our shortest side. So sometimes, again, they'll word the questions a little bit differently, so you just have to be really careful and know at all times what you're looking for. Okay, so let's jump right in and do some examples. So first thing you're going to ask yourself is, do you have a full pair? So right here, you know the angle and you know the side. So this is a full pair. So we're going to use sine law. So sine law says put the side length on top with its matching angle underneath. So this is your full pair. Now for the other half of the formula, you need the half pair. So since I'm looking for this, then I need to know that. So this is where the side length goes. And then the angle is supposed to go right here. But there's a problem. I don't know that angle. But we do know that the sum of the corners of a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. I know two of the corners. So if I minus them off from 180, let me just do that here on my calculator, I get out 20 degrees. So now I have my half pair. So I know 17.5 goes with 84, x goes with 20. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cross multiply and divide. So since the x is on the numerator, that's my cross multiply, and that's the divide. So again, in class we call this your setup. So I definitely want to see that on your page. I need to see your setups every time. You don't have to show me what you're plugging into your calculator though. So you just have to go 17.5 times sine 20. So we're going to go 17.5 times sine 20, and then you must finish off that bracket, okay, before you continue on. So that's the cross multiply, and then we're going to divide it by sine 84. And again, you're not hitting second, you're just hitting the plain old sine key, and then hit enter. So we get out 6.01, or essentially just round it to the nearest whole number, so we get 6. The units are centimeters, so there it is. Okay, so if you have one full pair, then you're using sine law. And sine law is side over angle, cross multiply and divide. Okay, so here's another one. So this time I'm looking for this angle. So this is only a half pair because I have the side but not the angle. Here I have the side but not the angle. Here I have the side but not the angle. So all I have is half pairs. So that means I'm going to use cosine law. I'm going to use the one that is the cosine angle. So all I'm going to do here, you don't have to do this step, but I'm just going to write the formula on here just so that, just so that you can see where these numbers come from. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for theta. So theta is what's going to go here. Now, very important with sine law, or cosine law, sorry, is you always find the match. So you ask yourself, what matches, what goes with theta? Well, 16.1 goes with theta. So 16.1 has to go on the end. If you don't put it on the end, what you're going to end up finding is an angle, but it will be the wrong corner, and you won't know that. And then AB, these are just your other two sides. Okay, so now what we have to do is plug this out on our calculator. So because it's a fairly messy looking fraction, what I suggest you do is use that shortcut key that I showed you in class. So hit the alpha key and hit y equals, and then pick number 1. And by doing that now, you don't have to worry about all the brackets. So you've got 9.2 squared plus 22.4 squared minus 16.1 squared. And then in the bottom, 2 times 9.2 times 22.4. So you get out this really nasty little decimal. So that decimal represents cos theta, right? Because that's what the formula is, cos theta. So you want to get out just plain old theta. So the way we do that is we're going to go second cos, and we're going to put that answer in, right? And we're going second cos because we're using the cosine law. So I'm going to go second cos and then use that answer key. And I get out 37 degrees. Now, if you don't want to use that fraction button shortcut key, the other thing you could do is you just enter it in as normal, but you have to put brackets around the top, and you would have to put brackets around the bottom. But that is another way that you could definitely do it. Okay, so on this question, it says solve the following triangle. So in class, we talked about what that means. So notice all I've given you is three numbers there, 12, 8, and 100 degrees. So what you need to know here is that every triangle has three corners and three sides. What trigonometry allows us to do is it allows me to give you any three of those, and then you can find the other three. So when the question just says solve, what it's actually asking you to do is find the missing three things. So I'm just going to label them. I'm going to call this X. I'm going to call this guy theta and this guy question mark. Now you can call it ABC. It doesn't matter. You're just going to pick anything that you want. So the first thing that I notice here is that all I have is halves. So I have the angle but not the side but not the angle, the side but not the angle. So since all I have is half pairs, I have to use cosine law. So I'm going to start by finding the side length. So again, I'm just going to write out the formula from the other page. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing it for the notes. So I'm going to call it X because that's what I've called it in the question. Now again, super important, go all the way down and find its match. So what matches X? It's 100. So I'm going to write cos 100 degrees on the end. Now in the middle, the A and the B, those are just the other two sides. So 12 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 12 times 8. So I'm just going to go and plug this in on my calculator. So 12 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 12 times 8 times cos 100. Again, don't hit second because we're not looking for an angle here. We're looking for a side length. Now you get out this big number 241. So you have to remember in the formula that the formula is x squared. So how do we get rid of a squared? Well, we square root. So what is the square root of that answer? It is 15.5. So usually with side lengths we leave one decimal, and with angles we leave whole numbers. Okay, so now at this point, what I hope you see now is that right here we have an angle and a side, so now we have a full pair. So what I can switch to now is I can actually switch to sine law. So I can go 15.5 over sine 100. So that's my full pair. And my half pair, if I do the 8 next, it doesn't matter which one you do next, I'm going to go 8 over sine theta because those are the pairs. So again, I want to cross multiply and divide. So there's my cross, and then there's my divide. So I'm going to go 8 times sine 100. Again, finish off the bracket. Then go divide by 15.5. So I have sine theta equals 0.50. I just won out theta. So again, on my calculator, because I'm looking for an angle, I go second sine. And I did second sine because I used the sine rule. And I get out 31 degrees. Okay, so now I know this corner here. So the last thing to find is question mark. So you can make things really easy on yourself. If you realize that you already have two corners, it's super easy to find the third. All you have to do is minus them from 180 degrees, and you get out 49 degrees. So that is what question mark is. Okay, so when the question says solve, these questions are typically worth a fair number of marks just because of you're finding three things, not one. But just find something and then start using it, and then quite often that will lead you to the next thing and the next thing and so on and so forth. Now again, just as a reminder, I always want to see your setups. So I want to see this, and I want to see the answer. I want to see this, and I want to see the answer. Okay, so you must show your setups in order to get full marks for the questions. Okay, one more question. So it says, if you have to find the measures of a multi-triangle, try and find the side shared. This will usually help you get to the final answer. So the question here says, find the measure of angle theta. So what I want you to see here is that we have two triangles. So there's the first triangle, and there is the second triangle. And I'm looking for this corner right here. So these two triangles have this side in common. So I'm going to find that one first, and then hopefully that gets me to where I want to go. So I'm going to start in my yellow triangle. I notice here that I have a full pair. So I'm going to use sine law. So I have 7.9, so side length on top, sine of the angle on the bottom. And now here's my half pair. So I have x on top, and then sine of the angle on the bottom. But again, you'll notice I don't know the angle, but that's an easy fix. I know two corners. I can easily find the third. So if I go 180 minus 71 minus 50, I get out 59 degrees. So now I've got a full pair and a half pair. So all I have to do is cross multiply and divide. So again, on your page, I want to see your setup. And then underneath, you can just write the answer. You don't have to show me what you're punching into the calculator. So 7.9 times sine 59. Finish off that bracket. Then go divide by sine 71. So we get out 7.16. So I'm going to round that to 7.2. So now I'm going to switch gears to my green triangle. So I'm looking for this angle right here. So I'll notice that this is a half pair, this is a half pair, and this is a half pair. So because it's all half pairs, I have to use the cosine law. And I am looking for an angle. So again, I'm just going to write out the formula. You don't have to do this, I'm just doing it for the notes. So what I am looking for is theta. So what you have to do is you have to start with its match. So look at the diagram. What matches corner theta? Well, corner theta matches 4.8. So 4.8 has to go here on the end. Then the other two sides go into the other two spots. So that would be 5.2 and 7.2. Now again, if you don't want to use that fraction button, when you plug this in, you have to remember to put brackets around everything. I like using the fraction button. So I'm going to go alpha y equals, pick number 1. So I'm going to go 5.2 squared plus 7.2 squared minus 4.8 squared. And then the denominator, 2 times 5.2 times 7.2. Now, 0.745. So that answer is what cos theta equals. You want just plain old theta. So on my calculator, how do I find the angle? Second cos ANS. And I get out 42 degrees. So in terms of setup, this is what I'd want to see. And then again, the answer right here. So on this question, whoops, again, I'd want to see this setup and this answer, this setup and this answer. Typically, when you have more than one triangle, it always requires more than one step. They're never done in one step. That's the whole point of having, think of it as 2 triangles, 2 steps, 3 triangles would be 3 steps, and so on and so forth. Okay, so definitely try these on your calculator on your own. Make sure you can get the answers out on the assignment. And if you have any troubles, don't be afraid to ask.